What's up, Blue Nation? We got a doozy of a 90s kid guide to television for you today. Why is it such a doozy? Because it's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's technically a cartoon, but I would put this cartoon up with just about any live action show. Why is it so great? Well, for starters, it's the only time they've gotten the X-Men right outside of comic books. Literally the only time. What am I talking about? Of course, X-Men the animated series. Come on. And you might be asking yourself, what makes it so great? Well, lawsuit aside, that intro was incredible. And I'm not just talking about not just the intro. Also, the closing credits where the action figures would be rotating around. Like, no other show does something like that. It was so cool, and it was just, you would look forward to the credits, opening and outro, almost as much as the show itself, which is saying something because the show itself was fucking on point. Because, I mean, which is really saying something because, like, everything from the animation to the acting to the storylines, all of it just, it really brought the comic books to life in a way that nothing has ever been able to do. Not even the MCU, and that's saying something because the MCU is damn near perfection. But this cartoon did it better. It did. I'm sorry. It just did. And they're talking about potentially bringing it back, which if they do, oh my God, I'd be so excited. I would be so on board. You know how many great X-Men storylines have happened since that cartoon that would be amazing to see? Like, we could get House of M, which would then lead to Decimation. We can get Avengers versus X-Men. We can get X-Men versus Inhumans. We could get Utopia. We could get the Phoenix Five. Like, a lot of cool storylines that we could play with. Cyclops going kind of rogue. Cyclops and Emma Frost dating after Jean Grey dies. Like, oh my, there'd be so much cool stuff that they could do, continuing off from those storylines moving forward that I just think would be awesome. That was relatively unexplored yet, you know? But those are just storylines that they could do. Let's talk about storylines that they did. You got Morph storylines, which was one of the greatest storylines ever put to celluloid or film or whatever you want to call it. What with his death in the opening two-parter, Sinister bringing him back, him going kind of crazy and evil and trying to destroy the X-Men to his quasi-redemption. It was such an emotional soap opera-packed storyline. Done so well for a Saturday morning cartoon. Then you got the Apocalypse storyline and Warren becoming Archangel and all of that drama. You got Magneto and Asteroid M. You got the Savage Land. You got all the stuff with Senator Kelly. You got the Bishop coming back in time to save his future. Cable coming back in time. You got the Genosa storyline and the repercussions of governments going corrupt. It was such a heavy thinking show. And it was aimed for kids, but it never talked down to them. The Dark Phoenix saga, right, which is something that the writer of The Last Stand and The Dark Phoenix had two tries at and still couldn't get it right. Like, it was created and crafted by people who clearly knew and loved and lived and breathed that material. And it shows on screen with the care that they put into it, which you are hard pressed to find and stuff. Except I'd argue the Arrowverse kind of does that, and the Netflix Marvel shows and the Agents of the Shield. But X-Men animated series still blows them all off the water. I mean, it's the only thing that comes close and might possibly pass it by that much is the Batman animated series. So for a show that has this much depth and revolves so much around characters, it's hard to pick a favorite character. Now I know all of you guys who've been watching these programs all know that I'm a big fan of Cyclops. Huge Cyclops fan. Believe it or not, I hated Cyclops for a long time because of this show. The first two-parter, he leaves Morph to die. And it's just like, what is wrong with him? I thought he was a horrible leader. I hated Cyclops for the longest time. It wasn't until they started taking everything away from him in the comics that I realized, like, oh, I like this guy. So in this one, it's hard. There's so many characters to choose from, but I got to go Morph. That storyline, that redemption arc is just so on point. It's just so heartbreaking and rewarding at the same time to see the struggles that man goes through and the ups and downs, and it's a perfect story. Now, number 5 is a bit of a cheat. It's a two-parter from season 2, episode 12 and 13, Reunion. That's the one where Xavier and Magneto get stranded in the Savage Land with all their with their powers missing. They don't have access to their powers, and Xavier can walk. What? Um, and it turns out it's all a trap by Mr. Sinister to lure the other X-Men in. But it's so fun, especially the first episode in it, because it's Magneto and Xavier kind of bonding, and you get to see glimpses of the friendship that was before their ideologies tore them apart. And it's really fun just to see them connect, and these two larger than life figures relating together on a personal level. And that even though their ideologies are opposed to each other, that there's still that bond and that camaraderie that comes from all the things that they've struggled together. It's just such a beautiful episode, or episodes, because it's a two-parter. And it really gives you a glimpse of the heart of what that show is. All right, number 4 is another two-parter. Season 4, episode 6, Sanctuary. Now this is where Magneto, fed up with how Earth treats mutants and everything that's going on, creates Asteroid M and brings some of the mutant population with him. And everything's kind of going swimmingly until his main lackey, who's been kind of supercharging him, turns on him and expels him from the island and goes to war with Earth. Meanwhile, the X-Men are trying to save Gambit. It's a whole thing, but it's such a fun entry into it that kind of shows you politics, and it's good sci-fi. You should definitely check it out. It's a great entry into the series. Number 3. Season 2, episode 9, A Rogue's Tale. Now this episode, well, if you're fans of the movie Captain Marvel, you should probably avoid this episode. But it's a great episode that really shows the insights into who Rogue is and what she deals with every day. It shows that sometimes having great powers is not a blessing but a curse, and how hard her life is and all the struggles she goes through. A lot of the story is told in flashbacks from back when she was part of the Brotherhood, working for her stepmom or adopted mom or whatever the hell Mystique is to her. And she absorbs Carol Danvers' power. For those of you back at the time, I think when this cartoon, I think she was Warbird. She's gone by a bunch of different names. Obviously, the movies, she's Captain Marvel. And Rogue absorbed her powers and absorbed so much of it that she kept them permanently. If you liked Captain Marvel's powers in this, minus the energy projection, those are Rogue's powers in this cartoon, along with her absorbing people's powers and skills, because she absorbed so much of Carol Danvers, and she kept her inside of her. Like, part of her personality became Carol Danvers, and this is taken straight from the comics. For a long time, Rogue had those powers. Rogue had all of that. And she actually put Carol Danvers in a coma for a long time, how bad she absorbed it. So she lived with that guilt. Humble brag, I actually have the comic it's based off of, a royal reprint of it anyways, but so it's a great issue. So check out both the comic book and the episode. Number 2, season 1, episode set, Slave Island. Now this part of a two-parter, but it's mainly this one episode I love, just because it shows you just how corrupt governments can be. Now Genosa was supposed to be like a mutant sanctuary, and oh, come mutants, we'll protect you, we'll keep you safe here. But they were really enslaving them and using them for cheap labor. And it deals with the inhumanity and the immorality that people in power use to manipulate the people who are under them. The people who they can. It shows how corrupting power can be, and how just because someone is different doesn't make them less human than you, and how people view other people. It's a heartbreaking episode, and you can't help but be angry watching it. It's a great episode with really good social commentary. And the number 1 spot is the series opener, season 1, episode 1 and 2, Night of the Sentinels. It starts the show off strong. I would actually put this pilot up there with just about any live action pilot, except maybe The Shield. And because it's just so good, it gets you get to know all the characters right off the bat, and it sets up so many long-running storylines. Morph's death, the triangle between Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine, Beast going to prison, All of that is all set up in this two-parter, and it's set up so well. Cyclops and Wolverine butting heads constantly. A lot of it has to do with Morph's dad. It's just, it's such a well-crafted pilot that almost right off the bat it makes you feel like you know all of these characters and that you're there, you're part of it. It's fun, it's great. It's I don't know. It's one of my favorite episodes on the show. Just a great opener. And overall, it's one of my favorite shows. You should really check it out if you haven't seen it. Although I'm sure most of you have seen it. And yeah, I really hope they do bring it back for more because that would be awesome. But anyways, till next time, this is the 90 Kids Guide to Television. I'm Jonathan. Give us legends.